Imagine turning on your tap and watching brown water come out. Not for a day, not for a week, for months. And every time you complain, every time you call the city, send a letter, or show up to a meeting, someone in a suit looks you in the eye and tells you the water is fine. The tests are fine. The experts aren't worried. Keep drinking. Then imagine finding out the water had been poisoning children the entire time. That's not a horror movie. That's Flint, Michigan. And the most disturbing part isn't what happened in the pipes. It's what happened in the offices. Because Flint wasn't a natural disaster. It was a disaster created by human decisions. And for nearly 2 years, the people responsible kept insisting everything was under control. A city already on its knees. To understand Flint, you first have to understand what Flint used to be. For decades, Flint was one of America's industrial success stories. General Motors was born here, and at its peak, nearly 200,000 people called Flint home. But as factories closed and production moved elsewhere, Flint entered a long decline. Families left. Businesses shut down. Tax revenue collapsed. By the early 2010s, the city had lost roughly half its population and was facing severe financial problems. Flint was already struggling, and struggling cities often become desperate for savings. The decision that changed everything. In 2011, Michigan declared Flint to be in a financial emergency. An unelected emergency manager was appointed to cut costs and stabilize the city's finances. The mission was simple: save money. And eventually, attention turned to water. For decades, Flint had purchased treated water from Detroit. The system was reliable. The water was clean, but it wasn't cheap. Officials believed they had found a cheaper alternative. A new regional pipeline was being planned, but construction would take years. So while waiting, Flint would temporarily draw water from the Flint River. On April 25, 2014, the switch was made. And almost immediately, residents noticed something was wrong. The water smelled strange. Sometimes it looked cloudy. Sometimes it came out yellow. Sometimes brown. People reported skin irritation after showering. Others complained about the taste. Many refused to drink it. City officials reassured everyone. The water was safe, or so they said. The science that was ignored. Hidden beneath the city was a problem that would turn a cost-saving measure into a public health disaster. The Flint River water was far more corrosive than the water Flint had previously received from Detroit. Detroit treated its water to protect aging pipes. Flint didn't, and that mattered because Flint's infrastructure contained something many older American cities still had: lead pipes. Without corrosion control, the river water began eating away at the inside of those pipes. The pipes responded by releasing lead directly into the water supply. Not visibly, not dramatically, quietly, glass by glass, house by house, day after day. Lead is especially dangerous for children. It can permanently damage brain development, learning ability, and behavior. There is no safe level of exposure. The cover-up. This is where the story becomes far more disturbing, because Flint wasn't just a failure of infrastructure. It became a failure of accountability. Residents complained for months. Officials continued issuing reassurances. Reports were released. Press conferences were held. Everything officials insisted was fine. Then independent researchers started asking questions. One of them was Mark Edwards, an engineering professor from Virginia Tech. His team conducted independent testing and found alarming lead levels in homes across the city. Some results were so extreme that the water qualified as hazardous waste. Then another voice entered the story. A local pediatrician named Mona Hanna-Attisha began reviewing blood test results from Flint's children. What she found was terrifying. Lead exposure was rising across the city. She presented her findings publicly, and instead of immediately investigating, some officials challenged her conclusions. They questioned her methods, dismissed her concerns, suggested she was creating unnecessary panic. But the evidence kept growing. More tests, more samples, more proof. Eventually, reality became impossible to ignore. The residents had been right all along. When the truth came out, for roughly 18 months, families had been drinking contaminated water while being told there was no problem. Parents mixed baby formula with it. Children drank it at school. Families used it every day, not because they chose to, because they trusted the people responsible for protecting them. In October 2015, Flint was finally reconnected to Detroit's water system. But by then, the damage had already been done. Thousands of children had been exposed to elevated levels of lead. And the crisis didn't stop there. Flint also experienced an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease, a severe form of pneumonia linked to bacteria that thrive in poorly treated water systems. At least 12 people died. 12 people in an American city from contaminated water. In 2015, the city had tried to save a few $1 million. The consequences ended up costing hundreds of millions. Infrastructure repairs, medical programs, investigations, legal settlements. The bill kept growing. Accountability and the lack of it. Investigations followed. Settlements worth hundreds of millions of dollars were reached for Flint residents. Lead pipes were replaced. The water system was rebuilt. Today, Flint's water meets federal standards. But many residents still don't trust it. What Flint really exposed? Many people think Flint is a story about contaminated water. It's bigger than that. It's a story about what happens when warning signs become inconvenient, when financial pressure outweighs public safety, when ordinary citizens report a problem and nobody listens. The lesson of Flint isn't simply that governments can make mistakes. It's that they can ignore warnings, dismiss evidence, and keep doing so long after ordinary people have realized something is wrong. The children of Flint didn't choose their city. They didn't choose their pipes. They didn't choose the decisions made on their behalf. But they'll live with the consequences for the rest of their lives. It's a reminder that the most dangerous failures aren't always the ones we can see. Sometimes they're hidden behind people with authority saying, "Everything is fine," right up until it isn't. If you want to keep uncovering the stories behind the headlines, like and subscribe.